Welcome to the Clarence-Rockland Guide. I'm Derrick Scott with owner Luc Bélanger from Bélanger Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Welcome, Luc.
Welcome. Nice to meet you, Derrick.
Likewise.
Glad to be here.
So let's go back to when it all started. Growing up, where did you grow up, first of all?
I was born in Ottawa, and my father was selling cars for Belle Automobile in Ottawa, and he was friends with the Belle boys, and eventually one of the Belle boys bought a dealership in Hawkesbury and invited my father to work with him. So I was born here in Ottawa, but grew up in Hawkesbury. I moved when I was 4 years old or 6 years old. So in 1976, the Belle boys sold the dealership, a Chevrolet Oldsmobile dealership in Hawkesbury, to my father, Marcel. So we started a family business back in 1976.
So you pretty well grew up in the business when you think about it.
I know nothing else. It's the only work area that only domain I've been working in. So automobile is my life. I started in there. I mean, when I was young, going to school, high school, I worked all these small jobs like cleaning cars, parts department, a few in the body shop. So I did most of the departments, and then went to university. And then when I finished, I started selling cars. I was 21, so started early, 21 years old, selling cars in Hawkesbury.
So when you were attending university and having grown up in the car business, did you just assume that you would end up owning a dealership down the road, or was there a different path in mind?
Well, as mentioned, I know nothing. I know no other department or no other business other than the car business. So eventually, when you're young, you think, okay, it's fun, and my father has a dealership. But when you grow older, you kind of get the hang of it, and then all of a sudden, you see the lifestyle and you see the cars. I mean, you're young, you have sports cars, you have Corvettes and Camaros back in the day, so it excites you. And eventually, when you started to work full-time, it's that time that you start to know that, okay, it's in the car business that I want to be in. I'm comfortable in this environment. And basically, when my father one day fired a manager, he says, Monday morning you start as a manager. So I was 24, I was a sales manager, I became sales manager. I had to prove myself even more. So at the end of the day, the car business is where I grew up, where I'm comfortable in. I know the business pretty well after all these years, so that's the way I grew up.
What type of advice did you get seeing your dad move up in the car business that you look back now and you think, you know what, I'm really glad my dad taught me that, whether it be verbally or indirectly?
You have to say, grew up in Hawkesbury and started a business there. It's very, we keep things simple. We are simple people, our personalities. We keep everything matter of fact. We use common sense to run our business and keep, what's the word I'm looking for? Just being yourself and being simple in the industry. So being transparent, starting off being transparent is the most important thing to gain trust in this industry. I mean, the industry has always been, you hear horror stories here and there, but we grew up, I would say my father, having earned his living starting up in Hawkesbury, people respected our family, and he didn't overdo it. He kept things simple, and that's how we evolved from there.
Now, you mentioned that people respected your family. Was that based on the openness and the transparency?
For sure. I mean, that's our personality. Our family personality is matter of fact. There's no BS in our way of doing business, and transparency is, people are looking for that, and we try to strive what I've learned from my father. At the end of the day, that's how you make your living and basically retain customers down the road. Being honest, no BS, and being transparent throughout the process is something that people are looking for. That's what we currently do.
With so much competition out there, so many dealerships in the area, Clarence-Rockland, Orleans close by, how do you at Bélanger Chrysler keep those customers? Because they've got so many options, Luke, but you hope that they continue to come back to Bélanger, and they do.
At the end of the day, a smaller dealership close to the big city has its challenges. Customer service, I mean, we now have our service manager is Luc Séguin. We've worked together for 20 years in the Orleans and even in the Bélanger days in Hawkesbury. So you're as good as people that are working with you. So when you can trust and when their type of management resembles our type of personality, that meshes and people appreciate that. So customer service, at the end of the day, customer service, people are looking for that. And if they're well served, they're going to come back. It's always a challenge being close to the city of retaining. I mean, we don't sell 100% of our vehicles locally, but that are to an extent because of our family name, family history, transparency. That's how we evolve in the industry.
I've often heard growing up, now I'm not sure if it's a myth or not, but a lot of people say if you go to smaller communities searching for a vehicle, you're almost guaranteed to get better service and a better price. Is that true?
We have to say, I mean, better price. The service, obviously, yes. In our dealership, there's no managers. My brother or myself are going to meet you when you buy a car, so either or. Pricing is always a challenge. I mean, you can have, we have a price match guarantee, but it's always depending on if you don't have the right unit in stock and the customer is driving to another place that has it. It has its challenges, but the customers expect a great service. Like I mentioned before, transparency when you meet the owner, and I mean, it's pretty simple to say, I don't need to go back to an office to see a manager and leave the customer for 10 minutes. We deal directly with the customer. Customers appreciate that. Word of mouth, price match guarantee, our family history. I mean, there's a few good things are on the good side when the customer realizes that.
You had mentioned at one time in Hawkesbury, Clarence-Rockland, all within Prescott Russell, but I imagine some major differences even though the town of Hawkesbury and Clarence-Rockland are pretty close together.
Well, to go back, we started in Hawkesbury, but eventually we bought a second dealership in Cornwall Motor Sales. So we were in Hawkesbury for 20 years, in Cornwall for almost 10. And we decided that we had a family get-together to say we bought a dealership in Orleans. So we sold both the Cornwall and Hawkesbury store to buy a bigger dealership in Orleans, a General Motors store, Marcel Bélanger, Pontiac Buick. But eventually, when General Motors decided to do their restructuring, they canceled 258 dealerships across Canada. We were one of them. So we received an email and a letter saying your contract will not be renewed. So it was devastating for our family back then in the GM world. Eventually, we sold some used vehicles for a year, and after that, we sold our dealership to the Myers Group. So I worked for the Myers Group for the only time in my life that I worked for somebody else for 18 months. I worked as a general manager with some of my employees that were already working for me. So then we heard that a dealership in Rockland was available. So we initiated conversation, and it led to me and Mark purchasing the dealership. It was quite a change from the city dealership in Orleans to in the country. One of the things that were the key thing to buying another dealership or having your name on the building is really the Eastern Ontario was the center. If we do the map, Hawkesbury, Cornwall, Orleans, and a dealership becomes available in Rockland, even if it wasn't Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, if it was Ford or another manufacturer, Then, but the location and the family name said if we start up in our own backyard, that was the most important thing to start up, to have our name on the building, even if we changed manufacturers. So we started up and we sold cars right away. It's not as if it was a new place, a new owner or a new building. We sold cars right away. So it was a good start.
Do you think with having lost the dealership that it gave you the drive, you, your brother, and your father,
For sure.
more determination to almost prove it to yourself that you can be successful and you can overcome a major blow that you went through?
It was very costly at the end, really losing a large-scale dealership and then going back. We compared our startup in Rockland to the startup in Hawkesbury, smaller operation, smaller town. Basically, we lifted our sleeves and we started over again. So it was a great challenge, but again, we're still here. 6 years later, we're doing well. Like I said, it was a great challenge to start. But with the family name, with the location being in Eastern Ontario, we sold cars right away, and that helped us get off the ground on a good start.
What's next for Luc Bélanger and Bélanger Chrysler?
Great question. I'm with my brother Mark, and you never know about the opportunity if another dealership becomes available. Today we're operating one dealership. We're very happy where we are today. If an opportunity comes tomorrow, depends on the location. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved in going to the next step. Not ready to retire just yet. I'm only 53, Mark's 49, so a lot of work left in us. You never know, down the road, if there's another opportunity, we'll cross the bridge when we get there.
Luc Bélanger from Bélanger Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, thanks for being on the Clarence-Rockland Guide.
It's a pleasure, Derrick. It was nice to be here.